It is a big idea, a new world order.
Your world is not what it seems. Alex Ansary, Outside the Box.
As I speak before you now, the manufactured collapse of the global and U.S. economy is hitting us hard upside our backside of our heads, right here in our own backyards, whether that be in Portland, Oregon, in Los Angeles, in Las Vegas, in New York, in Miami, in Chicago, in D.C., or elsewhere on the planet. Right now, we're in this interesting era of time, in this domino effect, this slide down the rabbit hole, not only financially, but in terms of people being very delusional as to what's going on. We very much are down the rabbit hole and the abyss of illusion, with no one really asking that three-letter question, why is this actually happening to us? And how do we get out of it? I've talked to a lot of people in this last week. A lot of people, including myself, are having their shifts cut back, scaled back, a lot of layoffs here in the Portland area. You also have some other things taking place where you're seeing more and more people move to the Portland area for our resources, looking for jobs as things get worse in other parts of the country and the world for that matter. Right now, gas is about half what it was about 5 months ago. The bailout plan is not working, and it is in fact $5 trillion instead of $700 billion. So it really serves no purpose to use obsolete terminology or obsolete facts or obsolete stats when describing the bailout, because it's far higher in the end. It's going to be far higher than $5 trillion. We have a couple pieces of news that we're going to go over with you this evening. We'll also take your phone calls at 503-288-4442. There's a number of people that are speaking out about the future ahead, people involved in business, finance at the very top. Here is one individual. His name is Gerald Celente. He is the CEO of Trends Research Institute. He's the man who predicted the 1987 stock market crash and the fall of the Soviet Union. He's now forecasting a revolution in the United States marked by food riots, squatter rebellions, tax revolts, and job marches, and that holidays will be more about obtaining food, not gifts. And he sees all these things happening by the year 2012 of all years. In addition, George Soros says deep recession is inevitable, depression possible. And so to take a look at some other things also taking place in the news, the prospect of revolution was a concept echoed by a British Ministry of Defense report which came out last year, which predicted that within 30 years the growing gap between the super rich and the middle class, along with an urban underclass threatening social order, would mean, quote, the world's middle classes might unite using access to knowledge, resources, and skills to shape transnational processes in their own class interests, and that, quote, the middle classes could work together, merge together, and become a revolutionary class. So this is what the elites are warning about. Here's from the first paragraph, from this report that came out earlier in the year from the London Telegraph, or the Guardian, rather. Information chips implanted in the brain are coming to us in the future by the year 2030, electromagnetic pulse weapons as well. The middle class is becoming revolutionary, taking on the role of Marxist proletariat. The population of countries in the Middle East increasing by 132%, while Europe's drops as fertility falls. Flash mobs, groups rapidly mobilized by criminal gangs or terrorist groups will be a regular occurrence. And again, this is the world in 30 years. 30 years' time, envisioned by the Ministry of Defense team responsible for painting a picture of the future strategic context likely to face Britain's armed forces. So this is what they are preparing for right now. Here's another one. Warnings from world leaders all within 72 hours. The Australian Prime Minister has said, and I quote, nuclear strike would make 9/11 insignificant, and other weird warnings coming from him and others. Over the last 72 hours, there's been a strange number of cryptic messages leaking out from world political leaders about what could be in store for America over the next few months. These predictions of impending doom come from England, France, Australia, and the United States. People that can't safely cross the street cannot fully understand the larger world that they live in. I see these people in Portland like barely able to cross the street, barely getting hit by cars, barely aware of anything outside of what's happening on their cell phone or, what's going on their hand that they may be staring at or the book they may be reading. Totally consumed with self and just what's happening in their immediate environment, but not really aware of the people walking around them. And so there is a danger in this miniature matrix that a lot of people live in where, they create their own reality to a point where the things that do threaten them, they don't see. People have become, right now in our world, blind to the beauty and the ugliness and evil in the world, only seeing things from a certain lens. And so I want you to be very, very aware of that. This stuff is not comfortable to look at. It's highly negative and disturbing. But in discussing it, we can shine a light on the problem and take a look at some other solutions that we may need to examine in the days, weeks, months, years to come. And with that, we'll go to the first phone call and continue on with the other pieces of news.
Alex, this is Barrett Norcross.
Good evening, Barrett.
I want to discuss the program Cops. I've been watching it. It's one of those few programs that I actually engage in watching. And what I've noticed is how people learn from this program how to give up their rights. There's another program called Cop Watch. Now, Cop Watch holds them somewhat accountable. See, if you have a camera or a white coat and a clipboard, that's all you need.
I understand, Barrett. You are correct.
So, I mean...
There's a reason why these things are on TV, as I make a point of trying to mention each show. There's a reason it's there.
Alex,
there's a reason it's been there a long, long time. I walk by a storefront, and there's another episode of Cops with another police officer chasing down another person, regardless of whatever race it is. But again, here's another African-American with their shirt off and their tattoos being shaken down by the local police. And so we had a caller calling a couple weeks ago saying it's not really like that. They also go after others, and that's true as well, but they do have their focuses.
Because I've been there. I've been homeless, Joe.
But in the end, it's not about one particular race.
I have a good friend named Joe. You're also considered a good friend in my books.
I understand what you're saying, but it is about
all you guys,
Barrett, the dehumanization of all of us through these programs. And people get used to seeing it over and over and looking towards the police officer as a savior. And it's a sad, sad thing, but
we don't need them. We don't need them. As far as I'm concerned, we don't need them.
The ability to turn the TV set off. People need to learn to turn the TV set off. There's so many people that sleep to the TV. And what they're doing is they're subjecting themselves to all types of subliminal advertising and messages that come through that medium. They're just not aware of it because the mainstream media hasn't told them about it yet. But it doesn't mean it's not happening, and it doesn't mean it still doesn't have an effect on the subconscious mind.
Anything. And I know that we both know this.
Well, Barrett, I want to thank you for your call. Anything else?
No, that's all. Alex, I appreciate your show, and I love you. You're a human being. I'm a human being. We're trying to make things better for our kids. I don't have no kids. I don't have any kids. I've never been married. None of that stuff. And but I love people. Okay, I do. I care about people. Anyway, excellent. That's all I want to say.
Thank you.
Have a nice night.
We meet Wednesdays, by the way, at the People's Co-op. We'll meet next week at about 4:30 or 5 o'clock upstairs at 4:30. December, it looks like the room may be booked. We're trying to find another location. If you'd like to volunteer for this program, on a side note, we do need an extra graphics person. We need a couple other people working here on the set if you're certified. I'm also looking for a volunteer coordinator. I know there's a lot of people out there that want to help this show, but unfortunately I'm just one person and can't answer every single email. So I need some help with that as well. And We need to work together to solve some of these problems and share information and not judge one another and have a certain level of mutual respect as we go through this crisis that we're now facing. Talking to strangers. If you really want to scare someone, you walk up and start talking to them about the world. And I do that once in a while, or just say hi, and start talking about something. And you'll be amazed sometimes at how cold some people do react. But you also have those other individuals that aren't completely sucked into the matrix and sucked into themselves. You'll find a lot of people out there that do want to engage you in a dialogue about the world that we live in. And so it's a hit or miss. You have to deal with the rejection, but when you do really find someone where you can talk about something of mutual understanding, it's like finding a needle in a haystack, but those experiences, even synchronicity, the word I use every now and then to describe these very odd encounters that I have here in Portland with other people that see the same thing, sometimes with people that have never seen this show or seen shows like this, but still came to their own conclusions, discussing what we're discussing today about the centralization of control, the manufactured wars throughout time, and what we're going to be facing in the future. These conversations are important to have because your voice is not being represented on the mainstream media or on the radio stations, most of them, in Portland. And, out of curiosity, I did turn to the alternative radio station here, KBOO, which isn't something I normally listen to, but I wanted to hear what they were saying in terms of the elections and Barack Obama, whether it be supportive or whether it be critical or whatever the case may be. And I heard a lot of different mixed messages, but the good part was there was a lot of people that were looking at the corrupt aspects of Barack Obama on KBOO radio, and there's been a couple different programs that I have heard, and so that's a good thing for people to still have the desire to hold politicians accountable. And that's something that we need right now very much in this country. And before we get to the other news, we are going to take another phone call. Bill?
Hello?
Go ahead, caller.
You can hear me okay?
Yeah, you're coming through.
Great. You made a good statement about talking to people. I think that's a good way to communicate. I'd just like to make it brief that when Bush was in more power than now, I made sure that I made comments in the grocery store for people to hear how I objected to his actions. And I just felt that people really were scared to react to what I had to say. People are fearful that, I don't know what their fear is, but there's a lot of fear out there. And you were also mentioning something about people in Portland that they have trouble crossing the street without the cars hitting them. And I think that it's our responsibility to look for the car and to look for the news and dig into the internet and try to find out what's going on, because if you're not fed, you got to feed yourself. So therefore, people need to get themselves out there and to be more proactive. People are too much into their fluff, and the media is into their fluff, and the CEOs are into their big fluff, which is lots of money that our government is feeding them. So that's my comment for the evening.
Thank you. Thank you for calling. We'll take the next call in just a couple minutes, and we'll go back into the economy. And this stuff is highly disturbing. I care so much about people, and I'm very concerned about those that won't be able to provide for their kids. You have to be willing to walk alone in this world if you're trying to stand behind some kind of a truth. Truth is relative to a certain degree. We all have our own truth. Sometimes it's good to step back from the herd and step back from the energy of other people and feel your own energy. And I remember, sleeping all the way up until noon the other day, after just all these different thoughts in my head about where people are at and all these different arguments that people want to have about Obama and about how 9/11 was actually committed by Arabs and how everything's fine and we need to be in the Middle East and it's just a matter of re-strategizing the military and all kinds of nonsense. You step back in your own little space, and there is a sanctuary there that we all need time to time, to where we're only hearing our own thoughts and seeing reality through our own eyes instead of the lens of someone else, through the TV set, through the radio stations, through the paper, things of that nature. And it could be a scary time to walk that road alone, especially with all this tension going on, but it is necessary. And I also think that there's a reason why some of us are lone wolves, because we're supposed to do a lot of stuff by ourselves, accomplish it by ourselves, And, my life, I suspect, follows in the same path. I look at my whole life, and I find it very odd, all these different things that I've experienced as a young man, with abandonment from parents and being moved around from place to place, and poor relationships with people, all based on basically who I am and what I believe, because it's very different than what a lot of other people believe to a certain degree. And to have that connection in the flesh is such a rare thing in my world, that when you do have those connections with other people, it's important to remember that and have a little bit of gratitude. And it is important today to have gratitude for the things that you have, for the food that you're eating. In fact, to have a little bit of gratitude for all the work that went into producing the food, wherever it came from, before you take that first bite. And it's nothing religious, but it's all about the intent that goes into the process of consuming your meal, and doing it in a more conscious way, as opposed to just being another animal eating from the trough. Do we have another call, Bill? Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me? Hello?
I can hear you.
Great. People have to realize that what's going on is outside of their control. Yeah, they're scared, and they should be. But if you don't do anything, like the last caller said, it's going to keep happening. And one of the ways to do that is just to come out and say it, and just to put it out there so everybody can chew on it. I was watching CNN yesterday, and they had the nerve to actually name a dog that the Obamas might get.
And Obama referred to himself as a mutt,
yes,
which
I'm a mutt.
Was very distasteful.
Well, yes, but you know what? I've been saying that about myself my whole life, just to calm people down.
And I used to say that about myself a long time ago, till I realized that was the programming from the Matrix,
exactly.
Crafting my worldview as to my true value.
Exactly. Well, you know what? The media stepped it up a bit. They actually held a dog that was a mutt, and they called it Toby. So that's an underlying subliminal message there that people have to put in their forebrain and look at it and realize it's BS. It's Babylon syndrome. That's all. Thanks, Alex. I love you, dude.
Thank you. Jennifer, let's go back to those Barack Obama pictures, meeting with Bush, top of the page. So this is where we are Monday right now. It's time to celebrate, dance to a new year. But no one can articulate what exactly is going to change. And we take a look at these individuals having a nice little chat. It's very interesting to see this take place right now, and to see people forget to question authority, and to see the mainstream media legitimized in the eyes of many, many different people. Look at them. They're having a grand old time. There's a couple different shots that we have loaded in there. Run through them all, if you will. And this is what we're seeing now. This is what people are focused on. This is what's causing some people to celebrate that Obama is a part of the establishment, and this massive psychosis of, well, you just have to go along to get along. After all, you all got to take a little bit of a cut back from the military-industrial complex every now and then, and take a little money here and there from this corporation or that corporation or this lobbyist. It's all part of, just doing your job. After all, they are so charismatic. Even Bush, not charismatic, but still someone that when he came about in 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, you saw this religious symbolism around him in the same way you see the aura above Barack Obama's head. We saw the same stuff with Bush. Why is this hard stuff to comprehend? Why is this outside of the realm of comprehension? Now, again, Washington's $5 trillion tab is where we're at. This is something that is being supported on a bipartisan level. Fighting the financial crisis has put the U.S. on the hook for some $5 trillion, a report says, at least so far. It'll be a lot higher before all is said and done. For all the fury over Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson's $700 billion emergency economic relief fund, it seemed downright ridiculous to use that number when compared to the running total of the government's response to the credit crisis. According to credit sites, a research firm in New York and London, the U.S. government has put itself on the hook for some $5 trillion so far in an attempt to arrest the collapse of the financial system, or as what they call an attempt to arrest a collapse of the financial system. In reality, they're now telling you they're not going to tell you where all that money is going. And in fact, Goldman Sachs CEOs got a bonus of $15 billion collectively amongst them. How interesting is that? How democratic is that? Layoffs mount, economic crisis deepens in the United States. Monday brought a fresh number of indicators as to where we are with the job loss rate, including massive layoffs, bankruptcies, and negative labor market data. The U.S. is entering into a deep economic crisis. Also on Monday, Circuit City, the second largest electronics retailer in the United States, filed for bankruptcy protection. Prior to the announcement, manufacturers had begun to cut off product line shipments, fearing that the company would not be able to make its payments. Circuit City, at the same time, announced 700 layoffs among its corporate staff. But only about a week earlier, the company announced that it was closing 155 of its retail stores and laying off 7,000 workers. Thousands more will undoubtedly lose their jobs as a result of the bankruptcy announcement. In England, Ken Clarke, the former Conservative Chancellor, has warned that the economy is on the brink of a meltdown and unemployment could reach 3 million. Mr. Clarke, who's 68, says the British economy is headed for a catastrophic crisis that will be far worse than anything that has occurred in his lifetime. Meanwhile, failure of auto industry could set off catastrophe. Advocates for the nation's automakers are warning that the collapse of the big three, or even General Motors, could set off a catastrophic chain reaction in the economy, eliminating up to 3 million jobs and depriving governments of more than $150 billion in tax revenue. All right, we have 2 more phone calls. Let's go to the next one. Hello. Hi.
Hi. My name is Carolyn.
Hi, Carolyn.
Alex, I really like your show. My husband and I have watched it every Thursday night for the last 3 or 4 weeks. We just wanted to let you know that there are some people out here in Portland, Oregon, who aren't asleep.
Thank you very much. I hope one day those that aren't asleep will emerge from the TV sets and will actually meet in the flesh.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Because, this is nothing to count on. This
No.
TV set right now, and also the ability for Access TV to survive in the future. I was looking at what's going on in East County with Verizon moving in, and they are moving in for the kill, all under the guise of greater competition between Comcast and Verizon. But it's going to change what you see on Access TV. In fact, I heard Verizon's already set up their own quasi-Access TV stations, but it's not for the community, it's for the corporations to throw out infomercials. So that's what people are going to see on Verizon. So there is a cap, I think, in terms of time on how long we're going to have this.
I think you might be right.
Is there anything else?
Well, yeah, I just kind of wanted to let you know that we agree with a lot what you say, that we've seen many movies by Alex Jones. We're aware of the Illuminati, the Trilateral Commission, and the fact that they're trying to bring a North American Union, uniting Canada, United States, and Mexico into one country, so that we will end up with the euro-dollar, just like the United States, Europe
the
has.
Amero here domestically, yes, modeled after the euro.
And on top of that, I also believe in what you said earlier in the show when I first turned it on about the rumblings going on in other countries about something bad happening to America in the next few months. And I believe that it is a plot to bring in martial law. And I am scared. I just happen to be a Christian, and I believe my Lord will take care of me in the end.
People get so territorial over belief systems.
Yes, they do.
They're frightened of other people that believe differently.
Yes, they are.
Christians watch his show.
Yeah.
Atheists watch his show. Muslims watch his show. Buddhists watch his show. What's important is for us to be open to people's belief in their own life force. Whatever culture or belief system or land it may have come from. We're all kind of in a way talking about the exact same thing, but people get so scared because they can't prove that there's any kind of hope out there with science at times, that there's something or a reason why we're here. A reason why we're actually here now. And I look at my life, as I said last week, about not being afraid of people coming and taking you away, the drop gun mercenaries taking you out. Right. And the reason I believe in that is because some of us have gone through previous lives or previous experiences where something happened along the way that prevented us from an accident or something that could have ended our life. You know, I've gone through some things when I was younger. And so when you look at that and you look at your life as kind of perfect to a certain degree and everything happening for a reason, what is there to fear? When you can actually look at your own life experience, what you've been through, the things that you have overcome, and also the experiences and stories of others. It seems that fear is what they want, and if we tell ourselves that this is going to happen to us just because they're about to, usher in martial law, it's not going to do us any good. And so...
That's true. But,
it's
like
just,
I said,
it seems so simple, yet it's so simple, it's almost complicated to explain. It's something that we all kind of have to figure out for ourselves.
Yes, it is. And I don't care what color you are. I don't care what your religion is. We all need to just be aware of what's going on around us. Like you said, open your eyes and look around at the people when you're crossing the street.
We should learn to be colorblind, too, when it comes to electing politicians.
Yes, we should.
Here's another thing I want to say about racism. If we're not racist, there's no better or worse, whether you're black or white. And that goes in either category, if you know what I'm getting at.
Yes,
and so a lot of people looked at this election with the anybody but Bush philosophy, and a lot of people believe that this is a big jump forward, and we're making some major hurdles in terms of combating racism in this nation. But we still need to become colorblind, because I did want to say this tonight. If Obama is here to destabilize the United States and usher in a one-world order, do you know how catastrophic this is going to be in the South, with angry white men and people belonging to the KKK and maybe the KKK getting new members to go out and lynch African Americans here in this nation? If Obama is there to do what it looks like he's doing, can you imagine the rage that's about to be ignited as gun sales go up? How is this actually going to be a step forward? I'm starting to really, really be concerned about this. The whole idea of racial tension, the concept of a race war, manufactured just to keep us off balance and off kilter. And I think it's something that people should examine more and more as they see the media try to play races off against one another. It's a really disgusting thing. It is absolutely sickening. All right, well, I'm going to thank you for your call.
I agree with you, and, keep up the good work. I really like your show.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I can't believe that it's already halfway through the program. We're not even a quarter through the news, but we still have a phone call waiting, so we'll go to that now. Good evening.
Oh, hello, Alex. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Wonderful. My name's Eric. First, thanks for taking my call. A few random brief comments. You mentioned we're halfway through the show. In the future, I'd like to have your show continue to be wonderful with two things. I'd like you to set aside time to just do hard news. Just give me these crazy stories that you're getting from viewers over the internet, and keep feeding the masses that are willing to listen these alternative stories that are ignored by mass media, and I would love to see that. Second, it seems like from watching your show for now, 2 years, that you've strayed away from having guests, and I know that they're getting people to commit to being on the phone or coming to the station, or that can be a challenge, and getting volunteers to help you out with the show, another challenge. But those guests brought a variety that I'd like, and but I do want to wish you well. I think you're keeping me coming back every week, and I really enjoyed the program. So with that being said, any questions from you for a viewer?
No.
All right.
I'm just taking it all in, but it's a little overwhelming because not very many people understand what I'm going through right now trying to produce the show with things going on behind the scenes. So I'm just kind of reflecting, but I don't have much response for you, my friend.
Hey, no worries.
Things are really rough down here at the moment.
You could spend 80 hours a week putting on a 15-minute show once a week, and what you're doing with
not without additional help, I cannot. Well, I'm actually, I can't. But you make some good points there, and I definitely would like to be able to provide that and much, much more in the future.
Well, ask, and you'll get some help.
I have announced, I want to think if you recall, I've announced before, if Jennifer, you can bring that graphic up at the top of the list, and let's try to bring that up periodically for the show for the viewers, because I've already been doing it about a couple months. But I'm resuming the show next week, The Daily Show, where I cover a lot of hard news on oraclebroadcasting.com. oraclebroadcasting.com, 866-639-9535 is the number. There's another number, 360-350-1486, and that's 1 to 3 Pacific time. But I'll be resuming that on the 19th of November. It won't be on the air this week. And so that's another opportunity to hear some of the news that is on my website, alexansary.com. And the other announcement is I believe that this show is going to be on Nevada Access in the near future. I don't know when, but I know at some point we are going to have that lined up, and I have one person that's going to be sending out some DVDs to some other access centers. But having said that, Post Office $2.8 billion in the red. Postmaster General John Potter said the agency is making sharp cuts in hours and overtime, but added that there are no plans for layoffs. Mail being sent dropped by 9.5 billion items. The cost of sending packages will go up in January, and the annual increase in the cost of letter mail is still scheduled for May. In terms of the G20 meeting, this is from a New Zealand publication. G20 summit, new world order, question mark? I'm getting real used to hearing about the new world order being announced, almost to the point where most people are not alarmed. Almost to the point where some people are going, hey, new world order, that sounds great, anything but this. For the Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, it is a new Bretton Woods, as important as the 1944 convention that established the modern financial world order. For Nicolas Sarkozy, President of France, it is a once-in-a-lifetime chance to remake the global financial architecture and usher in an era of regulated capitalism. But beware the headlines that these leaders try to manufacture when they assemble for the Credit Crisis Summit in Washington this weekend. What we have is a summit without an agenda on a crisis without an agreed cause in a country without a functioning government. The U.S., whose outgoing president agreed to hold the meeting under French pressure, and whose president-elect, keen to stress the U.S. says, quote, only one president at a time, end quote, won't even be there, has already bristled at European talk of creating a new supranational regulators and international rules. Moving on to the next report. According to an official in Italy, the United States, Russia, Europe should build a new security order. U.S. President-elect Barack Obama should work with Russia and Europe to build a new world security order in which a missile shield would have no place, according to the Foreign Minister of Italy, Franco Frattini. It says, and I quote, Europe, Russia, and America should build together a new world security order, he told the Italian daily La Repubblica, adding that missiles, quote, have no usefulness at all in this context. The remarks came after Moscow said it wouldn't deploy missiles near Poland if the U.S. scrapped the missile defense shield, prompting Washington to say the plan did not target Russia. They said that over and over and over again. Many people in Russia have their doubts. U.S. can start war in Iran, but they will not end it. This comes to us from PressTV.com. Tehran has warned that any attack on its country's borders would be insanity, because in this case, the war would be extended beyond Iran's borders. Recently, they've also test-fired precision high-speed missiles, surface-to-air weapon that they've shown off. Currently is something that can reach as far as 1,200 miles, hitting Southeast Europe. Now, in the next couple of reports, we're going to talk about how the economic meltdown does affect people psychologically in a big, big way who are already on the brink of insanity. Here we go. North Las Vegas murder-suicide, a result of economic stress. Eyewitness News has learned that a couple found dead in the desert on Monday had lost their home in foreclosure. North Las Vegas police found the pair near Lucy Road and I-215. At the time, police wouldn't say how they died, but the deaths have now been confirmed as a murder-suicide triggered by a lost job and home foreclosure. Pushed past the point of desperation, Jeff Lingle spent the day after his 38th birthday in the desert with the woman he loved. Apparently not enough. Now let's make this local. In Portland, Oregon, a couple days ago to a week ago, in an apartment on 116th, Southeast Division, a man killed his sister. The police found him. He was sitting there in the living room with the TVs blaring, and he told the police, "My dead sister's in the bathroom." He was suffering from schizophrenia. His sister was worried. She called Cascadia. She called the mental health authorities. She was begging for help. He was walking up and down the apartment with a baseball bat. He was off his medication. Perhaps there was a reason for that. Maybe no funding for the medication. We don't have all the facts in this Oregonian report. But from what we do have, to get the voices out of his head, as ironic as this is, he was blaring 3 different TV sets to drown out the voices in his head, which I find to be odd, because to do that, you're going to add another 30 to 40 voices in your head screaming, kill, 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 kill. So, not the best way to get the voices out of your head. Maybe nature would be a better direction you might want to look in. Very sad situation. She was very worried about him. He was being evicted from his home. So this was the very thing that triggered him to go the extra mile towards going nuts and murdering his sister. There's no excuse for murder, but when you look at these things in the country, it gets very alarming because you wonder where it's going to go from here. Suicide rates have doubled in Portland over the course of the past year or so. And there are many different ways that our society is being re-socially engineered as a result of the manufactured global meltdown. I myself have been working the same job for 4.5 years downtown. My job security is now gone. I've been called off 3 out of 4 shifts in the last 2 weeks. It's gone. I have no way to make rent for this upcoming month unless I get a second job. It's done. And I have been warning these people at this restaurant that this was coming. And they laugh at me and they ignore me. And now that I tell them this is happening now, what do you say now? They still don't say anything. They just shrug their shoulders and say they're scared. And I could see the terror emanating from their eyes, but not enough to actually make a change or get prepared or build community or start asking the big questions as to why this is happening. And that's highly tragic. Jobless rate bolts to 14-year high of 6.5%. So I have to get another job here, and I'm finding out that it's holiday season. Consumer spending is down, not because they don't want to spend, because people can't spend. They're worried about feeding themselves. Basic fundamental things. That's why they manufacture the cost of gas to go down by half, so things don't completely go totally insane. And they're manufacturing a bounce back for the dollar. At the moment, right now, the ratio is basically cost $1.19 US to get 1 single euro, as opposed to about a year ago, and we were talking about it being about $1.60 US to get 1 single euro. But this is only temporary. Now that the elections are over, things are going to shift between now and January in a big way. Family homelessness is rising in the United States. President-elect Barack Obama has vowed to help middle-class U.S. homeowners facing foreclosure, but he has said little about how he will help low-income families made homeless by a worsening economy. Families are flooding homeless shelters across the United States in numbers not seen for years. In addition, Paulson says troubled assets will not be purchased. He said the administration will continue to use the $250 billion bailout, one of the packages, to purchase stocks in banks as a way to bolster their balance sheets and encourage them to resume normal lending. All right, now let's talk about some of the military buildup stuff, which I try to, the hard news, keep you updated on every single week. Cuban President Raul Castro will visit Russia next year, the Kremlin said on Tuesday, in a new sign that Moscow is reviving a Cold War-era trade and military alliance. President of Russia told Cuban Foreign Minister Felipe Perez Rogue in Moscow recently, and I quote, "Next year we await Raul Castro in our country and this will be yet another contribution to the development of ties. Russia has been trying to restore its Cold War-era alliance with Cuba by expanding trade and military ties. The Kremlin, on Wednesday, rejected U.S. proposals aimed at easing concerns over a missile defense system in Europe. Russia says the planned U.S. system will threaten its national security. Meanwhile, another odd story, the U.S. said on Wednesday it has arranged to ship another 50,000 metric tons of heavy fuel oil to North Korea by next month under an international nuclear disarmament deal with a Stalinistic nation. North Korea said it had slowed down work to disable its plutonium-producing complex in protest at delays by its negotiating partners, the United States, South Korea, China, Russia, and Japan. Meanwhile, the U.S. may be on course to lose its AAA rating due to the large amount of debt it has accumulated. And the U.S. government announced Monday of this week an expanded bailout for insurance giant AIG of more than $150 billion as the Treasury tapped into emergency funds originally set for banks. The last bailout plan, the largest in U.S. history, came as AIG burned through billions of dollars of cash and reported a third quarter loss of $24 billion. Meanwhile, Starbucks' profit drops 97%. And also the restaurant I work at, their stocks were $25 this time last year. Now they're $1.60. Pakistan stops money leaving country as economic crisis worsens and teeters on the verge of bankruptcy. Do we have any more calls? We have time for one more, maybe two more. There's about 18 minutes left in this show. At this time, I want to remind people, there's a thing on applications saying, this employer does not discriminate. It's against the law to discriminate by creed, race, nationality, religion. That's all official discrimination. Being open about it. Being honest about it. In times of economic uncertainty, people get a little bit more specific when it comes to the type of employees they hire. And it very much comes down to your physical appearance. What is considered beautiful, what is considered strong, what is considered attractive, what is considered the status quo. When things get really tough economically and crime goes up, other things change in the society, as I mentioned before. More people in strip bars, more people in bars in general drinking, but more women moving in the direction of stripping. The next stage is prostitution, and the next stage after that doesn't work to feed you, is basically starving to death or eating out of a trash can. America's being set up for something very, very interesting, and with the economy, the U.S. economy, teetering on the brink of bankruptcy, a lot of questions are popping up in my mind as to why our names are in capital letters on our driver's licenses. Things of that nature, dealing with corporate personhood or our corporate body that's incorporated as an asset to the state. What happens when we go bankrupt? What happens to us? And this is very eerie to talk about Obama's national civilian force that's going to be as well funded as the military, or to hear him talk about servitude, voluntary servitude, supposedly, to get college credits or get money for college, things of that nature, in an era where more and more kids are not able to go to school, and a lot of people that are college graduates applying at restaurant jobs to be busboys, busgirls, and hostesses for minimum wage. And I sit around with my peers that are in the same boat as me asking, don't you just wonder why this is happening? And I think that's just a very, 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 very strange question to ask. But it's going to have to come down to their stomachs grumbling. And people in this world, especially the elderly, they leave before it's their time when they're gripped with fear of not surviving. And it has an effect on our health, so it's important to not be afraid just because I'm reading this hard news. That's highly disturbing. Before you go to that phone call, I want to tell you a story about how strange this world is and the people you meet that you don't expect to meet. And you wonder if sometimes things happen for a reason. Now, I know things happen for a reason, but there's constantly things that are happening to me that revalidate that belief system to me on a regular, day-to-day, week-to-week basis based on these strangers I meet and the conversations I have. I walked into a bar that I have not been in 6 years a couple days ago. It had been converted into a strip bar. What a surprise. I figure I'm going to get what I want and leave right away since I was already there, put my back to the stage and looked up at the TV screen. What I saw was the Sci-Fi Channel. And as ironic as you may find this to be, here I am at a strip bar, minding my own business, about to observe my reality as a sociologist to a certain degree and watch the madness around me. And these insane people living this weird reality. It's kind of like looking into a window of hell. It's fascinating. Look up at the monitor on the Sci-Fi Channel, and there's a couple guys in a very graphic scene. They're kidnapping a woman. They're tying her up. They're running her to the next room. They got her mouth bandaged up, and they're injecting her with a drug. I have never seen anything on TV this graphic, and it just pushes the envelope more and more every week to mess your minds up and your kids. I look around like these friggin' animals around me, both the men and the women, have no friggin' clue what's going on around them and why they're even here, why they're depressed, why there's imbalances between the sexes, why they feel they even need to be at a strip bar, which is nothing but safe prostitution. With 5 guys and a pimp. Pimp being the owner of the club, 5 guys being the bouncers. It's just a safer way to make your money in the dirty business, which is exploding right now and will continue to in the future in many, many sick ways. Use your imagination. So I'm seeing this, and I turn around behind me, and I see this mural or painting. There are 2 strippers in the mural. Butt naked on all fours with their rear ends pressed against one another. Above them is JFK, Bush Sr., Bush Jr., Bill Clinton, and an African-American woman that might have been Condoleezza Rice smiling with their tips out. Now, while that may have been humorous to whatever scumbag put that up there, to me, I see a different thing manifesting when I look at that painting. I look at those girls on all fours, waiting for those dollar tips from the president, from the elite, from these other sociopaths, these political criminals, and I see the whole of America being turned into property, being turned into something that's been dehumanized, demoralized. This degenerate world that we're living in, I mean, it's like it's not that hard to see all this darkness around us that influences people. But to cut this story short, I go back to the TV set, I'm looking at that, I'm looking around, I'm just like, this is totally nuts. The stripper to my right, she's sitting there in her fishnet stockings, brand new, clearly never been washed ever, and there's something not quite right about her. I just felt this energy about her, like she did not belong there. She did not belong in this place. But I'd actually at this point had enough of seeing this sick scene get worse and worse and worse. And they're talking about tearing her up and cutting her up, as you can see on the captions. I just turn around and go, don't you think this is weird? Don't you think this is macabre? Don't you want, I mean, is this something that disturbs you? And she calmly said, I've actually never noticed what was on the TV. But she seemed a little interested in what I was saying. I basically told her, there are a lot of things happening right now that you might not know about. But there's a reason a lot of people like you are in this situation right now. Without talking down to her, I just felt like it was something that needed to be said about the meltdown of the U.S. economy, how a lot of people don't have a choice. And she's like, absolutely, the economy is breaking down. As I left quickly, I decided I need to get out of this conversation. It was getting a little bit weird, and I didn't want to freak this person out. I just gave her a little bit of information and left, and then she turns to me and says, this is my second day. And then I was just like, don't you think this is weird? We just kind of, it was just a total of 3 minutes that I was in there. In, out, the whole situation, 3 minutes. I've only been doing this one day. And she looked both scared and had the look of shame and pain in her eyes. And that stuck with me for most of this week. All the pain that a lot of people have got to be going through right now as they make decisions in their life that they don't really want to have to make. doing things that they don't really want to do. It's a sad, sad situation. Let's go to the next phone call.
Hi there, Alex.
Hi.
I thought I'd let all you and all the people out there know that there'll be an End the Federal Reserve protest happening Saturday the 22nd of this month. There'll be a nationwide protest involving 39 cities, and Portland will be one of them. And the Portland Fed location is downtown at 1500 South 1st Avenue.
Okay.
And if anyone would like more information about the protest, they can go to endthefed.us.
Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Say that. Okay. I want to get that from you one more time. I didn't catch all of that, but if you want to Google that, Federal Reserve protest downtown, that sounds very, very interesting. People need to slow down enough to hear their own thoughts, to feel their own breath, to feel their own energy, and not walk like a rat in a maze, moving quickly to your next job, to your next event, to your next thing. It's not so much that time's speeding up, although some people present that argument, but that human activity is out of sync with nature. And that's the very thing that's driving a lot of people mad. All this technology around us, it's certainly surpassed our own humanity and spirituality for that matter. I met someone recently walking his dog that watches the show. His name is Steven, and on the exit music tonight, we're going to play a song called Streets of Babylon, which is produced here in a southeast Portland apartment. And the musician, he did the drums himself, the guitar, and the voice, and he tracked it together. This is a one-man band, basically, for this particular song. It's called Quienta. That's the name of the group. And again, the name of the song is Streets of Babylon. And there are a lot of people here in this city that are extremely intelligent, and it's really good to meet some of those individuals and to collaborate and share information. So I'm honored to be able to share something as we go out tonight that has been locally produced. But to go back briefly to the other pieces of news, rain floods western Washington rivers. Heavy rain swelled rivers across Washington on Wednesday, causing numerous road closures and prompting authorities to recommend evacuations in some areas. Flood warnings were in effect Wednesday for more than a dozen rivers. In another headline, China offers therapy to 4 million internet addicts. Chinese hospitals will open special units to treat internet addiction after surveys revealed that over 4 million teenagers are online more than 6 hours a day. An expert at Beijing's Military General Hospital, the Military General Hospital, which drew up the diagnosis, says special psychiatric units in Chinese hospitals will be designated to treat addicts, offering counseling, military discipline, hypnosis, and mild electroshock therapy. That sounds very, very fun. All right, next caller.
Hi, Alex. It's Barrett again.
Hi, Barrett.
I don't mean to bother you. I want to say something short. Did I mention racism? Did I already mention that?
What would you like to say?
What I would like to say is racism is nothing more than labels. Labels.
Racism doesn't really exist in terms of total reality, just the illusion of it, because we are actually all one. So you're actually just perceiving these people as being different races. We actually have a similar origin, but we forget that because the appearance of the skin tone is on the physical level, the 5 sense level. And so that's what they see when there's a whole lot that binds us together, tribally, culturally, if you go back in the past, music, a lot of different things. And that's the thing to remember. By getting caught up in race conflicts, it's pretty much an insane no-win situation.
Thing, Alex, can I say one thing?
Yes.
Okay. I've called like Urban Vibe and stuff like this, and I've spoke my mind. I believe in Farrakhan. I think that if he was president, he'd do all of us good. But it seems to me like they don't like if you're not black, they don't want you to call in. Now, I don't know. Maybe that's my own paranoia. I don't know. But I'll tell you this. Racism is nothing more than
racism goes both ways,
put on people.
And it exists on the other side, although it's not talked about as much. Barrett, I have to go
All right,
because we're out of
thank you.
time. Thank you for calling. One last headline. Millions drop in U.S. quake drill. Millions of people across Southern California have been taking part in what organizers say is the biggest ever U.S. earthquake drill. The drill is based on the hypothetical scenario, a magnitude 7.8 earthquake striking the southern portion of the San Andreas Fault. And with that, I want to let you know, before we go out tonight, that if you'd like to volunteer or help out the program in any way, shape, or form, you can email me at alex_ansary@hotmail.com. But the volunteer help I'm looking for is not sending me links on the internet. It's helping get this show out, get DVDs distributed, things of that nature. And also, we need a CG person here next week for someone that is certified, because we have a major issue now with people being able to crew for the show. Since we've lost our director, we've had a different number of people rotating in and out. And so things like that are needed to bring guests. And I actually can't bring guests, Eric, till everything's lined up technically here on the show. I can't do that at this time because I don't want to have an issue where we have a drop the we have like what we had a couple months ago where we tried for 18 minutes to have a get. I mean, what it is it's not easy equipment to operate. And so those guys back there are working very hard. There's only 3 of them, but we actually need about 5. Because this show is not an easy thing to produce for just a couple people that are doing it for free. And I appreciate Bill, Jennifer, and Christy, but they're only 3 people. And so people have to understand we're doing this with nothing. We need some additional help. And with that additional help, or other ways you can help, you can find it on the website. We can get the message out there in a much bigger way than we have so far. So I want you to know that, and that your help is requested. AlexAnsary.com is my website. I urge you to take a look at the news, but understand that the human species is on an interesting journey right now, and we have to combat our fears. We have to learn what it means to be human again, learn what it means to actually feel our own energy again, heal relationships that are breaking down. We highlight these things here each week because we're actually documenting the global war on consciousness. And this is a war that you do not have to lose. The future, as I said last week, is uncertain, but how you relate to the challenges coming at you does not have to be. We're out of time. Till next week, I'm Alex Ansary, reminding you that the path to the ultimate truth still starts within. Good night.
Welcome to the streets of Babylon. In green. Sat upon doesn't mean one damn thing. So welcome to the streets of Babylon, where everything's in lights. Every road you travel on leads to another cold night. So welcome to the streets of